Hello, welcome back. Today is the day we are going to repot my Encyclia bractescens Nursery Rhyme. I'm probably butchering that, but nothing new here on this channel. Hope everyone is having a beautiful day. So I did water her to kind of wet those roots, make them a little more pliable. Just from looking at this one here, looks like it's going to be nice and thick, so did not want to risk breaking anything. So let's take her out of the pot and let's, oh, okay, maybe not. She's kind of stuck in there still. Let's grab the sides a little bit more, see if we can loosen up whatever roots might be in there. And then, of course, we have those 3 new growths that I have to be very mindful of. Looks like she was in just an all bark mixture, and pretty decent root system, but they do feel a bit squishy. So I'm not sure if they're any good. I'm just gonna, okay, I do see some nice new ones coming though. So I'll probably be cutting off the majority of these down here because they are kind of mushy. And if you look, I can just pull that velamen right off of there, leaving behind the root. Yeah, most of these are gone, but it looks like she probably makes a very extensive root system because all of these were crushed into this little pot here. I do have a couple of pot selections that we are going to look at here in a moment. Let's see, pretty compacted in here. There we go. All right, I'm just loosening up. I'm not going to try to get all the media off of here because this looks like it's the Orchiata Bark and it's pretty firm still. It's not giving at all. And summer is a couple of weeks away, or maybe next week. I think around the 21st is the solstice. So the spring season is shortly coming to an end, and then summer. Of course, here in Colorado, it hasn't felt like spring to me. We've had nothing but rain for the last 2 weeks, on and off throughout the day. Temperatures have only gotten to the mid 70s. Kind of feels like a Louisiana winter. In Louisiana, it doesn't really get too cold, usually. Of course, you know, last few years could have been a little different. I haven't been there since 2014, but usually the winters in Louisiana are wet and cold. Well, cold to us there in the south. Mid 70s is usually comfortable. But when you add additional rain and moisture, that makes it a little cooler. Let's see. Should I or shouldn't I? Oh, it's coming off. Okay. I was debating on whether I should take that bark off or not. So these roots right here, if you look at it, it's nice and green. So those are pretty good. And there's no spag moss in here, so it wasn't just taken out of its seedling. So this could be a division, but we have this new growth here, which I will put some of that back in the media since that's where it was growing. And then we have that one there, and we have that one there. Very interesting, very, very interesting. You know, I'm gonna cut this one right here that's just kind of sitting out here, not really doing anything. It doesn't absorb any moisture when I wet it, so I'm just going to cut it. Does not look like it's a branching root system from first glance. This keep my bulbs together so it doesn't split itself. But let's see, mushy. I'm just double checking because they look like they're not very good. Yep. So as drastic as this is going to look, on this back end here, I'm just going to cut all the roots and then just double check the ones on the front end because there are some viable roots here. And the good news is, aside from the 3 new growths coming, which will produce their own root systems, these 2 pseudobulbs here have lots of storage left in them to support those growths until such time that the new ones decide to grow their own. And let me untangle all this. There we go. It's like untangling hair. And we're just going to cut these on the bottom so we can get a better look. All right, now move my bowl out the way so I can lay her down and really get a good look. And I don't want to put any of these dead roots into the media because then as they're breaking down, it'll break the media down sooner. I'm hoping to keep her in here for at least that 2 to 3 year mark, but we'll see. So now she has 3 directions of growth, and that is pretty exciting. Now I got this one at my local nursery, Nick's Garden Center, back in, back in April. Back in April. She was in spike when I purchased her. We've seen her bloom, and that one had 4 blooms on it, so wouldn't it be nice if these 3 kind of matured one right after the other, and then we got successive blooms off of them? That would be really nice. So I will fast forward over this portion here where I'm just cutting roots unless something exciting shows up. Otherwise, we'll be back in just a second. So here's what we're left with. All of these are firm, and I cut off all of the dead roots, which 90% of them came off of this back area here. And then I also cleaned off as much of sheathing as I could get without, of course, doing any damage to la plant. Because like I said, I've got those 3, this new growth in the middle is pretty safe for me, but it's the 2 on the outside that I'm stressing myself over because I'd really love to clean off this pseudobulb right here, but then I'm afraid I'm going to get too into doing this, not paying attention. So we're just going to leave it the way it is. Not going to spray it with hydrogen peroxide because it looks like it is just fine. I would love to get into that sheath, but no, leave it alone. So now let's see what we've got as far as our pot sizes. So I've got 3 different pot sizes. You can get all 3 of these at the Orchid Supply Store. 2 of them are the new pots that Ken has recently started to carry, and they have lots of air holes in them. I don't need all of those. They have quite the aeration. You can kind of see those holes in there, and nice holes at the bottom in addition to a nice cone in the center. So these are the 2 sizes I kind of set aside. And then this one is the solid clear with big holes at the bottom. There is no cone, but depending on what you're looking at and what you're trying to achieve will determine what pot you use. Originally I was going to put it in this to help retain the moisture, but I'm afraid that if I do that, if those 2 on the side decide to make a large bulb, I'll be in this position again next year. So this one though is wider. It's about the same in height. Oh, I guess you can't see that. It's about the same in height, but this one has a wider top and it kind of slenders down. So I think this one could work, because if I set her in the center, especially with those 3 directions of growth, plenty of room to grow and lots of aeration, because from what I've read, because I did buy her without researching anything until after I got her, but you grow these pretty much like you do Cattleya, where they don't like to stay wet for too long. They enjoy not necessarily a wet, solid, dry cycle, but a wet and drier cycle. Because since I've had her, I've not kept her dry per se. I've kept her more on the damp side. I think she's completely dried out twice, but that's it. Okay, I can get that sheath without doing any damage. At first I thought that was a piece of bark and I left it alone, but the more I look at it. Alrighty, so there's that one. And then there's the larger version, the 6-inch, I think is too big. Because look how tall, and she doesn't have, now if she had the root system, or the original root system before we had to cut off all the dead, I probably would put her in here because she would have the root system to sustain this size of a pot. But I believe this pot is just way too big for her. It would stay wet too long and then possibly ruin the roots that we do have. So I think we'll go with this one here is a, let's see if the size is on here. I'll put it down below, guys. We already know Trish isn't very good with pot sizes. But yeah, I think that'll work. And I did plan ahead on part of this. So I did bring my straps and some stakes, because now that she doesn't have the roots to hold her in, we'll probably have to stake her in. What I did not get was my mycorrhizal fungi or, fertilizer. I'll be right back. So now that I do have everything that I need, I am using a mixture of Orchiata Bark, fir bark, perlite, charcoal, and there are a couple of pieces of moss in here because I had repotted something else and it had a little bit of moss still left over, so I just added to the bowl. So there will be a little bit of moss, but not enough to keep the media too wet for too long. All right, and then let me just shake out the excess. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of the mycorrhizal fungi at the bottom, and then let me just close this. Because I have my windows open, it's a little humid outside. I don't want this stuff getting sticky. But that's about all I do, is just kind of sprinkle it across the bottom until it looks good, like when you're cooking. So obviously I'm going to have to put more media in, but I'm going to go ahead and position and hold her while I'm doing that, because these roots right here, the longer ones, are already touching the media. So I don't want to put more media in before I put her in, to possibly, let's see if I did this right. And then we'll just, actually let me just use my hand. Just a word to the wise, if you're using fir bark, I would recommend gloves, because you can get little splinters in your hand when you're using it. I didn't realize that's where all the little splinters were coming from until, again, I was doing the repot yesterday or Friday, whatever day that was. And I used the hand that did not have gloves on it. And guess what? I had a splinter. Was not happy. So I'm going to raise her just a little bit because I don't want her that low in the pot. Where's my other new growth? Okay, and there's that one. Okay, I almost thought that I was crushing it with my thumb. All right, and then what I'm going to try to do is the roots that are right there, I'm going to try to cover those with media, because they were just at the top of the media. They weren't quite under it. And see if I can't encourage that to go back down. And then the one that was growing out of the media has quite a bit of media around it, almost the same as it was prior to it coming out. But I did it so that the pseudo bulb itself, because the smaller pseudo bulb was kind of buried into the media, and I don't want to do that now that I'm using some moss in here as well, just in case the moss is close to it. Don't want to spoil it. Don't want to rot out that beautiful bulb, right? They remind me of little onion bulbs. That's what they remind me of. Now, I have heard that one can mount these as well. If you are one who likes to mount, then this, from what I've read, it would be a good candidate for that. And I am pressing down, but because there's not a lot of roots on the outer portion, I'm not too concerned about crushing any of the new roots other than the ones right here in the front. So those I'm making sure to be all the way on the outside so as not to break any of those smaller ones. But let me show you what I was talking about. So this is the growth that was coming out of the media. So half of it is still in the media, just so that it kind of still feels like it's in the same spot it was in. And then I am going to need to stake her. So what I'll do is I will put one stake on this side, and then I'm going to put another stake away from that new growth right here to help kind of keep this bulb sturdy. There we go. And do I need, you know what? And I won't need my wrap, because look, she's moving a little bit, but not wobbling like she was. So let me just fill in underneath the bulb now that I've kind of picked that one up a little bit. So when I repot orchids I'm not familiar with. I try to mimic how they were potted prior to me taking them out, just to kind of, like, you know, I talk about these things like they think, like they're able to tell that, oh, you know what, she moved me and I don't like this new position, or, oh, I used to be buried in media, now I can breathe. I don't think they do that, guys. I think that's just me trying to justify why I do what I do. But don't we all do that in some way? All right, so there she is. And what did I forget to do? Right in my face. I even stopped the video to go get it. So put a few on that side. And then I will just wiggle and get it underneath the media. Not a big deal if you forget. As you can see, I forget 99% of the time. I'll put the tag back in. I will put today's date on there, and then we will continue to watch her progression for the, I will just say, the summer season, since spring is practically over. And when I post this, spring might already be over. So there we go. And this right here, guys, it's just the tomato Velcro strap that you can buy at your local hardware store or wherever they sell tomato supplies. Let me see. I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of Velcro between these two. Actually, I'm not going to put it between these two. I'm just going to stake it to each bulb. I just will feel more comfortable, at least for a couple of weeks, until a root system establishes itself in there. This way, it's, as I'm taking it down to water it, these bulbs aren't moving that much. Some people use clips. I prefer to use this. I feel like it's a little more gentle because the inside is nice and soft. Give me a second and I'll show you. The inside is like almost like a cotton material, felt material, and then of course you have your part where it sticks to on the outside. And I bought a 2-pack thinking, you know, I was going to go through a lot, but because it's reusable, this is the same roll from the original one that I bought. I still have a whole brand new full pack out in the garage. So it is long lasting, and like I said, you can reuse it. You don't have to throw it away. If you have 2 small pieces and you need a piece that long, and you can hook them together so you're not cutting another piece the size you want, you can kind of manage that. All right, yeah, I feel a lot, look, I feel a lot better about that now. Perfect. Tell me if you have an Encyclia. How do you grow it? And what are your predictions for this lovely lady here? Do you think I used too small of a bark? Because it's medium Orchiata, medium fir bark, perlite, charcoal, and then, like I said, those few little pieces of moss that might have gotten sprinkled around in there. Speaking of moss, there's a piece there. You guys, I hope you're enjoying your day. Don't forget to give this video a like on your way out if you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs down if you didn't enjoy it. Tell me why in the comments. That is appreciated as well. Everybody have a beautiful day, and I'll see you later.